climate change, a huge priority for many people. Is it for you, and beyond what's in the Inflation Reduction Act, what sort of steps, concrete steps, do we need to be taking to address climate change and to get people on board?
I think climate change is one of the 3 existential threats that our country is currently facing. I think it's climate change, I think it's protecting our democracy, and it is also making sure that we have an economy that works for everybody. If we don't address those 3 existential threats in real meaningful ways, we have real problems that we're going to be dealing with for a very, very long time. And so, yes, this this Inflation Reduction Act is one of, I think, the largest investments in combating climate change in our country's history, which is fantastic. And so hopefully it will pass the House. We'll see how Elise Stefanik votes on it. It will reduce carbon emissions, I think, about 40% to 2005 levels. But that still means that there is more work to be done, so we can't, no pun intended, let our foot off the gas and continue to address these issues.
You mentioned the Supreme Court ruling this summer on Roe v. Wade. That's led to calls to expand the Supreme Court or even talk about term limits. Would you consider either of those?
I'm a proponent of term limits, both for the Supreme Court and for any elected office. I think they are an important check in our democracy, so I would certainly support those efforts.
For the House as well?
For the House?
What
yep.
would be the term limits for the House?
I don't know the exact number, because I think we also have to think about if a 2-year term still makes sense for the House, and so depending on how long those terms are, then we would figure out how long the term limit should be. But I think for the House, for the Senate, for the Supreme Court, elected offices should have term limits.
Do you think voters are paying attention to the January 6th committee hearings that have played out this summer? Have they raised legitimate questions about what led to the attack on the U.S. Capitol and what people around the former president and even Mr. Trump himself did or didn't do leading up to the attack?
The January 6th committee's work has been excellent, and we've seen in the viewership numbers that people are watching it, and as I've been out on the campaign trail, I've talked to a number of people who have watched every minute of the hearings, and I think they've done a really fantastic job of laying out exactly what happened and confirming what we've known all along, that the big lie is in fact a lie, that politicians like Elise Stefanik who have continued to stick with Donald Trump are complicit in spreading this big lie and remain an ongoing threat to our country, and that we need to shore up our protections to make sure that something like this never happens again. We've seen that the hearings have been very effective in reminding people about what happened, and in some instances changing people's minds. The amount of people who changed, those are the margins. That's going to win the election. And if somebody like Elise Stefanik continues to espouse the big lie or believe the big lie, after all of this evidence, I think we really have to question her fitness in running for office.
Let's talk about your opponent in the Democratic primary. Early voting beginning August 13th, the primary on August 23rd. What separates you from Mr. Castelli? I'm a proud Democrat. I have been my entire life. I am running for this nomination. Mr. Castelli has established another line, a moderate party line, that would allow him to be on the ballot regardless of whether he wins the primary or not. And I've said from the very beginning that whoever wins the Democratic nomination is the person that I will support. He has not made that same commitment, and I find that very troubling, because if we don't get behind the Democratic nominee, we are going to continue to help Elise Stefanik win, and that is not something that any of us want. I was going to say, if both of you are running, does that almost guarantee Elise Stefanik a victory?
I think nothing is guaranteed in politics, but I think it certainly helps her. And we certainly don't need a spoiler in such a pivotal election. And also at a time when we have the best opportunity to defeat Elise Stefanik than we ever have before, because she has become so extreme and out of touch with this district, and because of all of the great things that the Democratic Party has done in the last year. Certainly there is more to do. I'm not excusing that, but a lot has been accomplished. We have to build on this momentum, and we have the best opportunity to defeat Elise Stefanik this year, but not if we have a spoiler in the race.